why was Il Trovatore a piece that you felt was really important for this season for us to do, and what makes this opera so popular musically? I mean, so many people know the music, whether or not they may recognize it and recognize it as from Trovatore, but people know it. So why this opera, why now, and what makes it so great?
Well, well, first let me go back a little bit to the drama. I mean, it's such a weird, creepy story with a great twist ending. It's very dramatic. It's we had to cancel our Aida performance, and we wanted to engage the same singers. And a Verdi singer, you know, it takes a special kind of singer to really be able to sing Verdi well. And you could translate five of the roles, the five principal roles in Il Trovatore from those singers in Aida. Trovatore is one of what we call the big four. There's the big three: Rigoletto, Trovatore, La Traviata, and of course Aida. It is very, very popular. The music is very dramatic. The music is very, very beautiful. The music does show off the great voices that we have lined up. And so it made perfect sense. The popularity of the opera, besides all the things I say, you know, every great opera has a hit tune. And you have to say that with Il Trovatore, the hit tune is the Anvil Chorus. Why is the Anvil Chorus so popular? Well, I'll get to the big part last. There is a working class element to it because it's about these gypsies pounding their anvils doing metal work. And so it's relatable in that way. It's orchestrated to have actual anvils in the orchestra. So you actually hear that, which is very unusual, and it's very catchy to hear those anvils banging during the course of the song. Now, what makes the chorus really popular is what makes any song or aria really popular, and that's that it has a catchy tune.
That's very catchy.
You could sing that, yeah.
Absolutely. And I could see how people could remember that tune, and it could be picked up and used for multiple modern purposes too, whether it's commercials or cartoons or whatever. And opera singers are known to be Olympic style vocalists, you know, extremely talented, and are able to really do magnificent things with their voices. What is so challenging about the specific roles in Il Trovatore for an operatic singer?
Okay. The great Enrico Caruso, there's a quote from Caruso, and that is, producing Il Trovatore is very easy. All you need is the four greatest singers in the world.
Oh, so no problem at all. No trouble.
And you know, it's for Leonora, the soprano, and Manrico, the tenor, there's always been a lot of music that's very, very challenging for them. And I don't want to take anything away from mezzo parts and baritone parts before, but it's been traditionally the sopranos and the tenors that got all the good stuff. Verdi, he increased the pressure on the baritone, shall we say. So, and vocally, because he wrote a lot higher, and you have to sing very powerfully for a longer period of time in a higher register of your voice. The mezzo soprano, and it's interesting because of the three famous middle period operas, the mezzo soprano is featured equally to the soprano. She has to sing at the extreme ranges of her voice. So there's a whole scene where she's singing with she's singing to Manrico about her throwing the wrong baby in the fire, and the range in a very short period of time is that high B flat down to that low E, and very, very, very much putting a lot of pressure, singing fortissimo. I mean, it's so dramatic, you know, singing fortissimo in the middle voice, and way up high, then ending the whole scene very, very low. And if you're a singer, you know how putting that much pressure on the voice in a higher and middle register, how difficult it is to go back down low into the voice. The sopranos and the soprano, for instance, in this opera too, she has to express not just that large range, but a large dynamic range in the extremes of the voice. So pianissimo, very, 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 very quiet. Verdi did this in a lot of his operas. He required of the soprano to sing with great strength, but also very, very delicately. Pianissimo high B flats, little filigree cadenzas that you might expect to hear in a lighter Donizetti opera. And Trovatore has all of that. It's very, you know, and it's such often angry and over the top, visceral passion. And when you're doing that and you're putting all of that passion in yourself as an actor, to not let that affect your voice and to be able to sing through that is a huge challenge, and it's relentless at times.
How would a singer prepare for a role like that? How do you prepare your voice for the strain that it's going to go under for, you know, 2 shows, let's say?
Well, a lot of it is it is truly natural. A lot of you rarely see a very small statured person be able to do that with that much power. So it's the way they were born, and it's technique. It's learning, like in any kind of singing, but especially this kind of singing, to use your entire body, all the chest cavity, the support that you put down in your diaphragm, and not letting that affect your throat, and letting everything in the head resonate, because there's all that empty space in the head that helps the voice project. But it's really, really knowing how to put all of that strength from here and further down. It's a technique. It's a born gift. It's a born anatomical talent, shall we say. And it requires a lot of study. So you don't prepare it for a specific role. You're either able to do it or you're not.
I've never seen the show put to stage. I've read it before, so I'm very interested to see what it's like live. Why do you think that a young, you know, opera lover, or maybe somebody who's never tried to go to opera before, should see a show like Trovatore, aside from the fact that it's a classic and very well known?
Right. Well, it's, you know, I've been watching Sherlock lately.
I love that show.
And one of the great things, yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch, he's just brilliant. Not only as Doctor Strange, but as Sherlock as well. So, and one of the great things about that is it's a mystery. And so if you don't take the time to read the plot, it has a surprise ending. There is that. It is all these human beings on stage just pouring their emotions out, wearing their hearts on their sleeve to an extreme level that you don't see in every opera. Yes, there's emotion, absolutely. And all the emotions are in all the great operas, but Trovatore is over the top. That's like I said earlier, that's one of the reasons why the Italians, and Verdi wanted that. He wanted, it was based on on a great play by this Antonio Garcia Gutierrez. That was very, very popular at the time. But why was it popular? It was because it was so visceral, and it was a mystery too. It had this great surprise ending.
I feel like all the characters could have their own like side plots, you know, because they all are kind of driven by something different. It feels like each character you come into contact with, although they have conflict with each other, they all seem to have their own separate motives for doing what they've done during the show. And the big reveal is really amazing and very surprising.
Well, I would say that the baritone, Count di Luna, and the tenor, Manrico and Leonora, have a similar goal. Count di Luna, he wants to wed Leonora. Manrico wants to be with Leonora. Leonora wants to be with Manrico. And I don't know if that's technically a love triangle because it's not going like that.
Because not everybody seems to be on the same page.
Right. I mean, and there are obvious challenges in the story as to how they can achieve what they want, and of course they don't. However, the mezzo soprano, Alzucena, she has her own backstory. She is out for revenge, and in the most bizarre way imaginable, she gets it.
It's definitely a very interesting way that becomes full circle. And at the top of the show, the Count is outside of Leonora's estate. And I'm wondering, is that purposeful in that was his post? Or is that more of he's just really stalking her? Because he has the whole army out there, all his troops are out there, and he seems really determined to figure out who is singing to her at night.
Well, that is right. That is right. He wants to figure out who this competitor is. Absolutely. You nailed it. That's exactly.
He's taking it to quite the extreme. Just waiting night after night for this person to come who's singing to her. It's very bizarre. Even the way the show starts, it already starts off in a very weird situation, because I remember reading it and thinking, why does he have all of his troops outside of this woman's house? This is so odd. And then immediately, there's already a problem that's deeper than just the love triangle, because there's this whole war happening too.
Right, that's right. That's a problem with Manrico, is he's on the other side of the conflict. It's some old war of Aragon in the 15th century Spain, is because some other war, more contemporary war for Verdi, I think it would have been too sensitive for the censors of the time. But anyway, so not just a competitor for the love interest. We don't know that he's at this point that he is on the other side politically too. Manrico, the competitor, the tenor, who Leonora actually loves. I mean, that's not unusual in opera too. I mean, Lucia, Donizetti's Lucia is in love with not a competitor towards another love, but a competitor to the interests of the family. So it's a political competitor. So and how to foil that always seems to end up in disaster. And actually, I think it's kind of interesting that the captain of the guard is singing the story, or his version, what he knows of the story of the burning and the curse, with Alzucena and her mother, and the whole business of throwing the baby in the fire. They're not necessarily convinced that Alzucena. So what happens is Alzucena's mother is accused of cursing the youngest son, Count di Luna's brother, and so they burn the mother of this mezzo soprano character, and the mother begs Alzucena to get revenge. So Alzucena throws what she believes to be the baby, the youngest son, the cursed young son of the king, Count di Luna's brother, into the fire. Of course, what we find out at the end is she throws the wrong baby in the fire. But anyway, the captain of the guard is singing this to his troops to keep them awake. I mean, it's like kind of a horror story you would sing at a campfire out when you go out and go camping and toasting marshmallows.
Exactly, so you don't fall asleep at night. Here's this horrible story about the Count and why he has this crazy personal vendetta as well later on.
But isn't that the fun of it? Isn't that why why audiences might get a kick out of this piece?
I
Besides,
think so. It's so dramatic. It's so over the top, and it is so dramatic. And there's all of these little plot lines that are happening, and they set the stage really early. They being Verdi, of course, to what you're going to feel emotionally, even in the music as well. It starts off musically like that this is about to be a very big piece emotionally.
that's right.
Not necessarily just in grandeur, but the emotions that the characters go through throughout the show are very all over the place. And even the characters themselves at certain points are very surprised by the information that they learn from each other.
That's right.
Enrico learns information from his mother that he's very surprised at. And I love that the characters are just as surprised as the audience is when all of this is revealed, unless of course you've seen the show before.
Well, yeah. Oh, well, the very end, the last few minutes of the opera. Yeah. There's more than one reveal. I mean, Leonora's lover Manrico is about to be killed, and she tells Count de Luna, who's in love with her, that she will forget about Manrico and wed Count de Luna if he lets Count de Luna go. But unbeknownst to him, she takes a poison. Manrico thinks, this is all in the last several minutes of the opera, Manrico thinks that she's betrayed him, by agreeing to go with the Count in order to save him. And that's not even the big twist.
No, that's just a part of the end of the show. And it's all happening so quickly and really reaching that climax ending that, as an audience member, I think that ending is absolutely worth everything. Everything that happens in the show, that final reveal at the end is just so dramatic and so great. And musically, it's also just as dramatic because you're feeling the music really, I feel like, pump you up internally. Like, something big is about to happen. Yes. So you're excited, you want to know what's happening, and I love it. I think it's a great show for anybody.
Yeah, and there are two plot lines in and of themselves that can be interesting. There's the whole love interest part, love triangle part going through the opera, and at the same time, there's the whole revenge part going, and they intertwine as the operas go, and little aspects of those two different plots kind of get caught up into each other, which ends, of course, in that great dramatic finish.
So this whole notion about the anvils is very interesting to me. About there would have been real anvils in the orchestra. And so at the time, in the 18th century, anvils, of course, they're giant and heavy. So how many do you think anvils would be in the orchestra, or were they on stage? A lot of times now in the show, you'll see the anvils on stage, but back then they probably would have been off stage. So how do you think they got them there, and how many do you think they needed so it sounded, that ringing really was all around you for that song, for that piece?
Well, I think today, and that they're very, very heavy. That's what intermissions are for, carrying heavy objects on and off of the stage for different scenes. And in many circumstances in opera, you will see either an instrument being mimed or actually played on the stage. I mean, everything from the guitar playing in the Barber of Seville in those serenades to this Anvil Chorus. And honestly, it can be done both ways. It can be done either way or both ways simultaneously. Back then, how they did it, I don't know. They didn't have LA Fitnesses back there, so I don't know how strong the people were in order to carry things off and on like that. But yeah, I have no idea whether or not those anvils were all on the stage or in the pit. And I don't know what we're going to end up doing at this point either. I imagine my preference as the conductor is that we will have an anvil in the pit. And it really would only take one, because they're quite loud.
How do you select who gets to play the anvil? I mean, I imagine there isn't somebody who's known to be a great anvil player. So who would traditionally take that role in the orchestra?
One of the percussionists. I mean, for them, the percussionists are trained to play just a plethora of instruments, and the anvil it would be apple pie for them, very, very easy. So it would be one of the percussionists.
Are you going to be conducting this performance with Opera Tampa?
Yes.
So are there any musical challenges that have to be overcome with this show from your perspective, and how are you going to overcome them, or what do you think that they are?
I would say the overarching one is indeed the pacing. The pacing for the singers, because so much of it is so dramatic, and you don't want to wear them out with too slow, a tempo that's too slow, an orchestra that's too loud, too many full out climaxes. A big climaxes can happen in different levels. So you don't want to give 100% every time that something incredibly dramatic happens. And that's for the audience's sake too. It's like when you go see a play and they're yelling a lot at each other from the beginning to the end of the play. I mean, after a quarter of the play, I'm not interested in it anymore, because there isn't enough ebbing and flowing. It's just forte, 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 the whole time. And so I would say that's part of the challenge, because some of the opera is truly bel canto, which means you have to help the singer shape a line with slowings of tempo, and then moving the tempo back and forth, which is also another requirement for bel canto, is that you have this flexibility of tempo, and then transitioning that into something that's just more driven or more stayed in its tempo. And also there are a couple of choruses. As a chorus master, I can tell you the nuns chorus, keeping the nuns sing backstage, and it sits in an awkward position in the voice. A lot of the singing does, and it's very hard to keep that chorus in tune. And the story that we had referenced about Ferrando, the captain of the guard, singing to the chorus is required to sing very, very light, clear, and very, very fast. So there's challenges with them as well. But I would say pacing is the greatest challenge.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this in-depth conversation about Il Trovatore. The future of the performing arts depends on viewers like you. With all performances canceled or rescheduled during this intermission, the Straz needs your support now more than ever. Help us save the Straz by donating on PayPal or by texting the word opera to 73005. When you donate, you help support our immediate needs to make certain that we can safely reopen our theaters.